Hello and welcome to the Drawk Show. Welcome back to Mom Piece. This is going to be a crazy one. We are going to be talking a little bit about Little Garden, but I think we're going to the CORK-BOARD pretty quickly, huh?
I love how you call it the CORK-BOARD. I'm finding serial killers. Yeah.
People are wanting you to reintroduce yourself.
We've decided that I'm going by Mama Drawk. I'm a teacher. Some people were wondering why I was all into history, even though I teach philosophy, theater. But I also have a history major. History is a deep passion of mine. So I cannot tell you how much I am enjoying this story just because clearly Oda is also a history nerd. So he's putting in some phenomenal Easter eggs. That I'm lucky about is figuring out what information I don't have. And I think that that's what's been the key for me to get to have more fun, is suddenly being like, oh, you sneaky sneakerson, I need to do a lot more work around like mythos and meaning. I appreciate you saying the CORK-BOARD, but every time you say it, all I think to myself is maybe I should get a CORK-BOARD.
Should we get into Little Garden?
Let's absolutely get into Little Garden. I freaking loved this place. Little Garden was fantastic. The bad guys were batting. The good guys were gooding. Things were weird. Fantastic. When we first get there, I love the way in which you're like thinking that the things that are big are just the animals, and then anything that you run into are going to be these normal sized people. And then the piece where Nami takes out the book and you realize that no, the animals aren't big. The people there are big. Chef's kiss. Stunning. Like, that was the perfect way to do that moment. And you're given kind of a great little introductory thing where you know it's going to be something more as soon as they're excited to see the dolphin. And then when the dolphin got near them, it was just like this absolutely monstrous creature jumping over their ship. So you're like, oh, what are we coming up to here? We go in there. They're walking around in their happy littleness. And of course, again, Luffy decides, yeah, we've been on the boat and safe too long. Let's jump off into the danger zone.
Well, you gotta, don't you? Luffy's right that they needed to leave and figure something out because Little Garden's log post takes too long to adapt to.
Yeah, it was a little surprising to find out it was a year. You're like, oh, that's going to make things convenient. But I have a theory already about that we'll get to when we get to my CORK-BOARD.
Ooh.
And I have a new theory about that. So, yeah.
Mama Drawk's CORK-BOARD corner is that's a new segment because we're going to do theories at the end of each episode. I think the new segment before we reach the normal ending segments, there'll be one big one beforehand. That's Mama Drawk's CORK-BOARD corner.
Yeah, when you get to come down into the hole with me. And the way that they introduce Brogy the Giant as pushing apart the trees as if they're blades of grass and he's peeking through. And then the very first thing that he says to them is, do you have any ale? And you're like, so you don't have to worry about deciding what kind of a character this is going to be when he starts with, do you have any ale? I mean, let's just take one little moment for him getting bitten in the ass by the thing that looks like a Tyrannosaurus Rex. As if it was a bad dog that came up behind him and he just bisects his head off. Good God. It really lets you know the type of power that these have. And so talking about going in order, when we were looking at Mihawk, my main man, and his strength, I immediately, as soon as I saw him bisect this dinosaur's head off, I was like, I would love to see what Mihawk looks like on this island. Like, what would his power be? And I wanted to compare this giant to Mihawk immediately. And then when we later find out that there is a reward for these two and how high the berry reward would have been, because if we're talking 100 years ago, I don't know what the economy is like in One Piece. But
yeah, we don't actually have any confirmation. We have no confirmation about inflation. I have seen theorists talk about these bounties to be like, has there been inflation? Would these bounties be worth more today? People have questioned it.
Let's move back. Of course, Luffy jumps up to the top of something that looks like a brontosaurus's head because, of course,
Why wouldn't he?
I'm looking back at this weird page. I love it. I do love it. But where we meet the second giant, I like the way that they decided to do it. Have him bisect his neck off and have Luffy pop out of a neck hole. Like, first of all, but second of all, yes. But whenever they kill an animal, I'm immediately like, oh, no.
Giants gotta eat.
giant's got to eat. The giant's getting Luffy out, and I appreciate it, but it's Luffy, so he'd probably just punch his way out of its belly anyways, or come out of its mouth and steal a couple of teeth to make something out of.
You're not wrong that Luffy probably could have solved that problem on his own. It just would have taken a while and been actually probably more brutal, although the thing probably would have lived, actually, so, you know.
I did think it was a great way to meet Dorry, and I love Dorry. And I like that the way that they meet and decide to hang out with each other is when the little volcano goes off. I think that's kind of a cool little piece to have between the two of them. So we talked about this earlier and about how I don't like stories where there's no downtime. So I really appreciated this little downtime where we let our characters sit with the two giants in two different camps so that we split the people up and each person could have their own conversations, but also so that we got to find out about the island. But let's go off here to Dorry, because Dorry gave me some spoilers. Thank you, Dorry. Big high five.
You're figuring things out from Dorry, huh?
Well, Dorry gives you spoilers, right? So he talks about how in his village we live by a code. When there's a dispute, neither side will yield. The god of Elbath decides the matter. Our god protects the one who is right and lets him live. Blah, blah, blah. I started some trouble and now we're here. And I was like, it isn't a theoretical god that Dorry is talking about. He's not like this theoretical god we don't see who may do things, but may not. Instead, he is talking about a tangible God that they could A, look at, B, have conversations with, C, be a part of the life of. And I was like, thank you very much, Dorry. You've changed my perception of gods in One Piece now. So Dorry added up to something that I was already thinking about with gods, because I've said it before that Usopp has a feeling like in traditional indigenous stories, he's got the feeling of being the human of the bunch, which I said I thought was weird. But the more that I got into the story, I was just looking for hints to make me know whether I was on the right path. And I was like, oh, I'm on the right path, Dorry.
I genuinely don't remember Dorry saying that, but I think you are also, you've been hyper aware of moments of referencing divinity that I didn't notice at all. Like you pointed out Sanji and Zoro having a conversation about divine intervention in Logtown that I truly did not remember happening.
Whenever I'm looking at a story, the way in which people worship or the way in which they look at a higher power often tells you a lot about the mechanics of the place that you're in. Mm-hmm. And so we've had a couple of mentions that were in it throughout. And this piece here was the moment that I decided 100 million% that I needed to read the story as if Luffy wasn't just an interesting character with interesting people, but that Luffy was like the quote unquote farm boy, the trope of the farm boy who starts off as an average person, but ends up being, you know, the magical, the godlike, the wizard. And I kind of already had that feeling. And I mentioned it, I think, in the last piece, but this, because of Dorry, I was like 100%, 1 million trillion %, high five Dorry. It is for sure that gods are down here. So it is totally possible that Luffy is a god in this farm boy thing. We'll go to the CORK-BOARD corner in a minute because that took me down another new path. When I realized what I didn't know, I was like, all right, we're going to need to look some stuff up inside the world of Japanese myths and legends. And then we get to go off and watch their battle. What a phenomenal job Oda does of having the two giants meet to go over and have their battle, but walk through the forest to get there and give Sai's perspective, because it was just like a delicious thing.
Oda is phenomenal at scale.
Especially because he did this one little neat trick where Luffy falls back and the person that's with him, Miss Wednesday, thinks he's unwell. And she goes, oh my God, what's wrong? Too big, too much. He just falls back because the sheer size of the two of them is just too much for his mind to comprehend. When you're blowing Luffy's mind like that, when he doesn't conceive things or take time to think about things, and that's why things don't scare him, because he goes headfirst into action without any thought. When he thinks long enough that it knocks him on his ass and makes him fall down, you're like, oh yeah, well, that really tells you a lot about the scale of these people. We meet number 3 and his companion, and he tells her to quit calling him his name in public. Try to enjoy these moments between assignments. Only we officer agents get to go on these luxury vacations. On the top of his head, it's easy to just look at it as a 3, and a wick as well. But I also think that it's part of the Om symbol, which is in many Eastern religions, including Buddhism, the Om symbol. And I did find something somewhere that talked about how when an Om was broken, that it disbalanced and created kind of an evilness. It meant that you only had the evil side of the things of Om, or the darker realm. And if you looked at his eyebrows also have that same swoop and meet in the middle and then come back up, which is part of the Om symbol. And then his nose area would be the dot. So it would be an upside down Om symbol, actually, which has 3 types of powers, 3 worlds of earth, atmosphere, and heaven, thought, speech, action, 3 qualities, goodness, passion, and darkness. So he would be missing things like goodness and only have passion and darkness. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So he would get the 2 of the 3 things each time, which would be kind of ironic. So I thought not only is it wick, not only is it 3, but it is a very, very similar shape to the Om symbol. And then when I saw his eyebrows doing the exact same part, I was like, that could be. And so I decided if it could be, it will be, because I like it.
All right. So we have decided it's intentional symbolism.
Okay, let's go back into battle. The fight between the 2 of them, I liked it. It was a good fight. The first one, I think it better just showed how they have to fight until they're all out of energy. I think the most important thing that their fighting does here is we're talking about Usopp just coming into this point where he needs to feel like he's a manly man and that he hasn't lived his life in a great good way and that he needs to person up and become better. And so I think one of the best things that this does is it's foreshadowing, because Usopp is so enamored with these giants, so enamored by their honor, because honor is something that he hasn't had for so very long. And he's still being himself, but he's trying to build his honor. And so when he watches these people fight, he is triggered in this like huge way. And I think that's pretty cool because, well, first of all, it foreshadows. I now know for sure we're going to meet their god. We're going to go to their place. We are going to go to their island. We have no choice because Usopp is obsessed. And so we have to be able, and he says it like, I don't know, it's over 4 times or 5 times. I looked back and tried to figure out how many times Usopp gets all bizarre. And it's 4 or 5 times that he mentions it. He talks about how he wants to go there. And then near the very end of this arc, he says to, I can't remember which one it was, I will go to your homeland. So once he does that, it feels like a pact between him and the giant. And so now I know that I'm being foreshadowed that that is definitely a place we're going to end up.
All righty.
Okay,
so let's add a running prediction right now that the crew will go to Elbaf.
Oh, they have to. And then they fall down on the ground, and you got to love it because they say 73,466 battles, 73,466 draws. And so they fall until they're in complete exhaustion. I was very sad they blew up his face.
You were sad they blew up the guy's face. Shocking.
Yeah, like,
what a weird thing to be sad about.
I just was like, no, it was such a nice moment between them. Couldn't you have done something where he didn't suspect that he had been sabotaged and had somebody do something without honor to him? Like, you know, the 2 of these people having Dorry's face blow up was just like, oh, no. I don't want him to think that his friend blew up his face, and I don't want him to think that Luffy and his crew blew up his face. But the one good thing that was really great there is we got to once again find out that Luffy is leveling, not just through fighting, but something is taking place because Luffy is getting stronger and stronger and stronger. Because when he fights against Dorry, I mean, the only way that Dorry is able to stop him from doing anything is because he puts a freaking mountain on him, which is cheap, but fairly effective for a while. But even then, it wasn't effective for long enough. If you put a mountain on me, I'm going to tell you what's going to occur. I'm going to die.
To be fair, you're not made of rubber.
And I'm not going to be able to get back out. So
the rubber doesn't help with that, actually. The rubber doesn't help with the getting out, just the not dying.
No, exactly. So the not dying is all rubber. But we get to see some of Luffy's strength. Because if we're talking, and I'm already thinking in here, wondering what level the giants are in comparison to my main man Mihawk. I was watching him fight the giants and being like, am I learning about the giants' power level? Or am I discovering that Luffy is increasing in power level?
Interesting.
So that is a thing that this was interesting for. We are watching Luffy level up because when we go into CORK-BOARD Corner, that's part of that. That is when they realize that there has been a bigger problem with the island and that they have people on it who are being big bads. And we get to see the wax house. I was excited to see Mr. Five back only because of his sweet, sweet style. He's trying to be so cool, and yet you can tell that number 3 just has that much more power than him in the way that he was like, you didn't know that's a childish excuse. We're professionals to lose to an enemy and leave corpses lying around is like announce our existence to the world.
I do love how Mr. 3 takes this shit seriously. Like, he shows up and you get a different vibe from him. Like, oh, this guy takes pride in what he does in a way the other agents we've met do not.
Yeah, he's a very different dude. It's like we haven't met number 4 though, right? And we haven't met number 4's partner.
We haven't met number 4. We haven't met number 6.
Yeah, I'm not worried about the other ones. I'm just wondering where the transition is now because transitions, it turns out, are important. They're part of timing as well.
You watched most of live action, so you know what happened to Mr. 7 off screen.
I do indeed. I do indeed.
We are aware of what has happened to Mr. 7.
Okay, let's move forward. This is where we find out that Dorry and Brogy have that huge price of berries on their head. 200 million for the two of them. That's insane when you consider that you've got like Luffy in East Blue, just 30 million. Yeah. 200 million for 100 years ago. That's impressive.
Because we don't know what inflation was like 100 years ago, but even today, that means the two of them are worth about 7 Luffys.
That's crazy. We go back in, and when they're going through the forest, I love the idea of an evil dude being able to use wax figures of each of the person, because when you're looking at his house or his lumpy things or whatever, and he's calling himself an artist, you're like, meh, those aren't really artistic. The ability to completely build a whole ass human and have it good enough that it tricks somebody, yeah, that's impressive. And this was the other part where if I hadn't have been sure yet, now I'm positive that gods are just a thing that's right there. Okay. I am the warrior Dorry. I cannot disgrace the name of Elbath. And I was like, thank you very much, Dorry.
And why did that make you certain about the existence of gods? I'm curious.
Because I look for the repetition of ideas, right?
Okay.
So they talk in chapters earlier. There's a few things about divine intervention. There's a few things mentioned here and there. But then in this one, they talk about their god of Elbath. And then Dorry is so committed. He's bleeding. He's leaking all over the ground. He thinks that his friend might have been complicit in sabotaging, and it's that important to him. It's that real to him that I was like, you wouldn't have nearly that level of commitment if a god wasn't something that you actually had to face and be accountable for what you have been and what you have done.
Can we add on to the theory list that you believe there are prevalent, extant, physical deities in the world of One Piece?
Yeah, 1,000,000%. There just is.
All right, we're putting it out there. Gods is real. They're here.
And Usopp's not one of them.
Okay.
And never will be.
What? You feel the need to specifically say that? Why is that?
Okay, well, that one is kind of a cheat from earlier on in conversations.
Oh, right, I remember.
In my very first conversation.
Because you saw people in chat, yeah.
They said Usopp is our god. And every time they would use the word our, then I thought to myself, once I decided that gods were real, my brain repercolated that people kept saying Usopp is our god. And I was always like, why are you calling me your god? That's weird. But once I determined that gods were real and that became canon for me, then I thought about the term our and realized that they were saying as people, Usopp represented them.
This right here is the reason that she is not checking in on chat as often anymore, and we have a mod now who's adding banned terms.
I'm no longer looking at chat today because your illustrious wife put a thing in there that said, get the hell out of chat. And I hadn't been looking at chat. I came back into chat and was about to say something because I like to look at your picture every once in a while. I feel like I miss out when I'm looking at the comment.
I think taking in to look at the picture's okay.
Yeah, and I do, and I still am. But now I just block that side of the screen off for me. And I'm like, that doesn't belong to me anymore because I saw your illustrious partner be like, stay the hell in the chat. I was like, done.
I've had a lot of comments saying that they're going through the series with this, that they've gotten back on board, they've gotten on board because of live action, or they've just had this recommended for no reason, watched it, and loved this enough that they've started reading One Piece because of it. Genuinely, we've had comments like that, so we're still going to be keeping chat as spoiler-free as we can for all of those lovely people.
To lose your good name is to lose your very self. Yeah, the more this giant is telling me how important it is to live up to his reputation. And it really just feels like he has something very specific to live up to. If I'm wrong, I really want to make sure I'm super vehement about it, so it's super wrong. And then you go this. This is the judgment of Elbath, the god of war. Divine protection was not with me. God's divine protection. What's that got to do with anything? Would you give up your life just because the gods wanted you to? No, I'm sorry. Everyone is way too sure there's gods. I'm moving on. I don't even have to defend that anymore. Back into the conversation when they're talking about the bomb doing serious damage to his stomach and they're having all these conversations. As for the small fry who've learned our boss's secret, we can lure them into the jungle and pick them off one at a time. I wasn't even concerned about this. Like, I found like this battle to me was just going to be a vehicle for me to find more information about stuff that was going on in the world.
Okay.
I don't know why. I wasn't worried.
About the fight with Mr. 5, Miss Valentine, Miss Golden Week, and Mr. 3?
Yeah, like they talked about, you know, we're going to do this and we're going to do this and we're going to pick these small fries off. And I was like, yeah, it's not going to happen. I'm not even concerned at all.
The vibe is very much, at the beginning of it at least, you guys don't know what the fuck you're biting off here. This is the fucking Straw Hat crew.
Precisely. So I think this chapter was almost like a gift to us where it was like Oda was giving us a little nod, like, yeah, you want to watch some fun stuff happen and get these guys taken down a notch or two? And I was like, hell yeah, let's do it. But the real gift and the reason that I chose the picture that I chose was Sanji. That was the real gift to this entire thing. Yep. Sanji goes off into the woods and then he ends up going to the little wax hut in the forest.
I think it's fair to call it a house of wax because that's funny.
And then they're fighting. That was actually a really hard fight to watch when you know that he's that hurt. Plus, he just fought Luffy. And then to watch the two of them have this fight, knowing that he's not even telling him that he's been injured or that he's eaten a bomb. It's funny to just say out loud. Every once in a while, you're talking about One Piece and you're having these conversations. And then you say something like eaten a bomb. And then you're like, as one does.
Every once in a while, you realize what you're describing.
But you just ate a bomb. Teeth are missing. Your internal organs are moved around. True enough, but then there's also my honor. Yeah, 100%. But I cried when Dorry went down. So yeah, that was officially One Piece cry number 1.
You didn't cry during Nami's flashback?
No. When I watched Nami's flashback, I got like all choked up, wet-eyed. And I was like, oh, that is crushing. And I was so sad. In this one, so many years, 100 years of fighting with honor between two people who had become such good friends. The respect that they held for each other, the love that they held for each other, how fighting and coming together was the thing that they would say they would never let the other person down because they wouldn't hurt the other person's honor. Right? You know what I mean? It wasn't just their own honor. And I thought he was dead at that point. I really did. So to have somebody die, and then I knew that the other giant was going to find out that Dorry died thinking that he had been duped by his friend. It just broke my heart for him, the idea that he was going to say he could never fix it. If your friend is dead, you can't go back and fix that honor. He dies thinking that you dishonored him. And that's what actually made me cry. He says, 73,466 battles. And then he looks at his friend bleeding on the ground and he's crying. And 1 victory. It's still making me teary. And he lives. Dropping wax through his hands and feet might have been one of the grossest things I had to look at.
Pretty brutal.
Yeah, no, I'm not a fan, Mr. 3. I'm an opposite of a fan. And also the rage in which Usopp has here. He says, I'm going to find whoever did this and I'm going to kill him. And he's just shaking with rage. This was a real glow up for Usopp in here. Even though he didn't need to do much, he did enough that we understood what an impact this had on him as a human being.
And while he didn't do that much to help them, he is the only reason his friends survived.
You're right. And that was very, very important. And the Ducky moment?
Karu and Usopp together, saving the day.
And that's after the Ducky got his face smacked around by number 5. Now quack and call your mistress. Ugh. Number 5. You know what, number 5? I'll remember that forever.
As we talk about them being entombed in wax, I want to mention the Discord. The prevalent theory to what I'd be drawing this week was Zoro trying to pose cool in the wax.
Okay, so let's be 100% clear here. That was maybe one of the coolest things. And I'm just going to say another weird thing out loud. Maybe one of the coolest things I've ever seen is Zoro, trying to hack his damn legs off and then, I don't know what, drag himself across, and then he's unable to. So what does he decide to do? Pose himself so he looks really cool when he's no longer alive. I was just so impressed. I don't know if it should be impressive, but it was so impressive. The ending was spectacular because it really showed something that I think is going to become very, very important with the whole Straw Hat crew, but especially with Luffy, is that when you create a friendship with someone and when you stand up for them and when you not only help somebody to achieve their dreams, but he's a remover of obstacles. Mm-hmm. He helps to remove obstacles in the path of other characters. And so when Luffy arrives at the scene, it's almost like there was going to be something keeping someone from finding success, because at the end of this scene, the obstacle of them having to stay there is gone, because technically one of them did fight to the death, but there was an interference. So really, I don't know if they have to stay there anymore. And I think people could have that debate. But in my world, you can go now. Your God's happy. But he removes obstacles in the way of other people's treasure and other people's goals. Unlike Zoro, who didn't have the faith that the crew would take him out of there and was chopping off his legs, Luffy has absolute faith in the friendships that he creates. And so in the end of this piece, you have the 2 giants saying, no big deal, we're going to completely protect you. One of the reasons people often can't get out of here is because of this giant island-eating fish. Oh, there's 2 things we have to talk about. We can't forget. Number 1 is Sanji talking to Crocodile Head.
Okay, Crocodile. Yes, Crocodile Head.
I don't know why you can't get on board
Crocodile.
with this.
It's Sir Crocodile to me. I'm going to keep putting respect on Crocodile's name.
You do you. I think Luffy would like my name better than yours.
Probably, yeah. He's Luffy.
I'm comparing myself to an idiot. I think the idiot and I are on this side. So number 1 is the badass moment that this comes from, where he's literally just chit-chatting to Mr. Crocodile Head, being like, yeah, NBD. I'm totally talking to the top of Baroque works. This feels like a dangerous thing to do, and yet you're kind of Luffying this moment. You're going in with a ridiculous level of confidence and bravado. And so he talks to him, manages not to give out information, and manages to compromise Mr. 3, which was a fantastic plan. By pretending to be Mr. 3, he allowed it to look as if Mr. 3 couldn't get the job done and was being too cavalier. He goes, "It's me, Mr. Zero." And Sanji gets cool like a cucumber and is just like, well, then in that case, let me lead you completely astray. And then he says, "Isn't Mr. Zero the leader of Vivi's enemy?" And then he decides this is where his thing about being obsessed with women comes in, because he's not caring about himself. He's decided that he's going to make this be okay for Vivi, which falls well within his character. "Have you accomplished your mission, Mr. 3? Yeah, 100%.
We did, yeah, doing great.
Yeah, everything is perfect. Thank you. "Have you eliminated the princess?" Yeah, totally eliminated. You can call off the hunt. Everything's good here. And so I think that this was a really, really cool moment for Sanji. It showed the type of person that he is. And he doesn't back down in the moment, because then he sends off. Mr. Zero decides and sends off my great good buds the cute ass otter who's wearing a cheetah head, or a cheetah suit, like an otter normally does.
Yeah,
and
common thing for otters to do.
Normal otter things. And then the really chillaxed bird of prey. And he just kicks their ass. I'm saying they're still alive.
Yeah, you're telling yourself that the vulture whose neck he broke has survived.
I am literally in this panel watching him break the vulture's neck. But he's still alive.
He's still alive, everybody.
I love them.
I should have added the broken neck vulture hanging out of the window here.
That's so sad.
Limply hanging over the edge.
He shakes it off. He's fine. Oh, that was close. My neck got really hurt there when it was spun 380 degrees.
Somehow he missed all my vital organs.
No, he's fine. Crocodile Face thinks that everything is all great. And he goes, minions are replaceable. Are you talking back to me? No. I'll do as you say. No problem, says Miss All Sunday, being a Miss All Sunday, because Miss All Sunday is the bomb. And then we see my otter and vulture on the ground. They're fine. They're resting. They've decided to sleep because it's better for them.
Detective Bat in chat saying, luckily I went to yoga yesterday. Yeah, they're nice and flexible. Limbered up.
They've got a couple of owies they got to sleep off, and they're just going to lay there for a minute, and it's going to be fine. So Luffy gets to really lean into these friendships that he made with the giants. And I really doubles down on who Luffy is and says, no, if the giant said do this, then that's what we'll do. There's one reason that you little people can't reach the next island, and you see the two huge hulking men in their capes standing at the exit that they had come down earlier. You risked your lives to defend our honor. Now, no matter what, we will allow no enemy to tramp on our friend's pride. Have faith in us and sail straight ahead. No matter what happens, sail straight ahead. And I'm not sure I would have. Sailing into the giant ass fish when you see the island eater in comparison to the size of the boat, because again, he did a phenomenal job of perspective in the frame where the tiny boat is still deep in the ocean, but you can see the hint of eyes and the fin rising out of the water in the front, and you get an actual idea of how freaking huge this damn fish is.
It is almost 2 laboons long and much wider.
But this, I think, is also where he gives away some of the strength of the giants, and where I was able to say, well, then I think that Luffy is at a higher power level and is getting stronger and stronger, because the giants are able to blow a damn hole right through this fish. That's the power of the warriors of Elbaf, says everybody's favorite needle nose. And so as he weeps and freaks out. So I think for sure, once their weapons are broke, I think that also tells us that the leaders of the pirates, Brogy the Red and Dorry the Blue, were warriors of unimaginable strength, that says at the bottom.
Yeah,
right?
I always downplayed them in my memory, and then when someone was like, I think they're actually kind of a big deal when it comes to the power scaling of the world, I started to think about it, and I was like, no, I think that's true. Sure, they worked together on it, but that fucker got blowed up.
Exactly. And so I think that was another moment where we got to, oops, by the way, I read a tiny bit ahead, but not a lot. I didn't really know that I was reading ahead.
You can't be stopped. Where did you go?
I didn't get to another island or anything. I just know that Nami is not doing good.
Nami is slightly unwell.
Wait. I wanted to redeem myself because I did the hit things, tap things, and subscribe things last time, and I think I really messed that up. I wasn't so good at it, so I want to do it again.
Before we head to the corkboard corner, you want to do it again?
Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3. All right. Tap that like button. Give us a follow so that you'll know right away when we're putting something else out. We love to have you here, and we're excited for you to find out when we put out new content.
Come on. Yeah, you did it.
Come on.
You know what the sad part is?
What?
I'm leaving in the part where you hyped yourself up and gave a count in because it's more endearing that way.
You're the worst. I was so cool. You just ruined all my coolness. Oh no, I lied to you. I got to a point where I was watching who is it? Was it Sanji? Yeah. Who's up at the front strengthening himself by doing the workouts with the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 giant ass weights.
I thought it was Zoro doing the exercise with the big weights.
I meant Zoro.
Oh, okay.
And then I saw some weird dude when I turned the page who had 2 swan heads and a thing, and I was like, yeah, we're not looking at that. Move back. So that's when I stopped.
So you went a little bit further.
Yeah, I went, oh, whoa, I went too far. I can't help it. In my defense, it was there. All right.
Are you going to come up with a different defense for reading ahead every week? Is that the goal?
Yes. All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's time for the crazy place that we call CORK-BOARD Corner, where you get to see the insides of the craziness. All right, so I realized once I started to look at Luffy as the proverbial farm boy, the one who is more than he appears, and I started
the Campbellian hero.
Ooh, look at you. That I decided that it was time that I went backwards, looked at old things, and then moved forward. One of them was anything that had dragon in it.
Okay, so which is like 6 pages, 2 of which he's talking in.
Yeah, but everything that dragon does is A, cool, and B, meaningful. And then another one is the laboon page.
Yep. You pointed out Crocus's well wishes to the crew, or what he said to himself after they left. You thought might be important.
Does he really say it to himself? I mean, he's talking to himself and Roger.
True.
Could that bunch be the pirates we've been waiting for all this time? That boy has a strange air about him. Eh, Roger? I see you. I see you, Crocus, croaking it up.
Crocus, for some reason, talking to Gold Roger, the dead man.
For no reason at all, talking to a dead person. So I 100% have decided that Laboon was Gold Roger's whale. After the millionth time of looking at this page, these things cannot be stopped. An inherited strength of will, so the things that you get from other people that make you stronger. One's dreams, so we can look at that as being treasure. We can look at that as being the honor and all those things put down into one thing called one's dreams, because that gives you more strength of will. And the ebb and flow of the ages, you already know how I feel about time. Yeah, as long as people hunger for freedom. So there's this need for people to be free. They might even not know that they're imprisoned. You don't necessarily know when you're being controlled, but you also might feel like you're imprisoned by a system, you're imprisoned by people. That's a thing to get into. These things will exist. Gold Roger, King of the Pirates. And then, not to disappoint us, he says, a pirate, eh? Not a bad idea. And I was like, I hate you. I know that's super important. I realized I can't look anything up and I can't go anywhere, and I don't have a community I'm allowed to bounce ideas off.
There is no way for you to do any of that without ruining this one.
But I can go into Japanese folklore and meaning and metaphor and symbolism. So I went online and started to find all the different people I could who did Japanese symbolism and other things. I found the sweetest girl. She is so pumpkin-y sweet, it's ridiculous. And I went into her channel and she very, very lovingly described a few things to me. So the first thing is that I knew that there had to be something going on about the way in which Luffy went up and over into the Grand Line, because everybody is looking for this map to get into the Grand Line. Out of all the treasure, there's only one map to get into the Grand Line. It's kept inside of a vault. And there isn't a bunch of other maps that the Navy can grab or other people can grab. So something has to be super important about what's found inside the Grand Line if you have one map to get into it. And so I started to say, okay, so if it's that difficult to get in, and Luffy becomes a pirate, which would allow him to steal things as part of the normal thing that a pirate would do. He has a crew, et cetera, it would allow him to get up and over. So the first thing that I thought of is I need to get more into the dragon mythos. And the koi going uphill turns into a dragon. And then I was like, well, just stop. You already have a dragon. Who the hell's this dragon? So I went and looked up dragon mythos in Japan. And I have now decided 100,000%. And if I'm wrong, it'll make it way more fun.
You are living the this pedal goes up attitude this episode, and I respect it so much. You're living the channel values.
So I decided that there's a prophecy that's being fulfilled, and Luffy is part of it. And that's why he was asking the questions about whether or not this was the pirate that they were waiting for, that Luffy is fulfilling some sort of prophecy piece in there. But then I also decided, let's just call Luffy Monkey Dragon Luffy for now, instead of Monkey D. Luffy. And I've decided that Luffy is becoming more than he was, and moving over into the Grand Line has given him different inherited strengths, because I believe that Luffy would have had inherited strengths in himself anyways, even if he hadn't eaten a dragon fruit. But the dragon fruit, the devil fruit gave him strengths and gave him this power and made him be Rubber Boy. But I think that he would have had power anyways, inherited strength. I was like, is it possible that he's related to Dragon? Maybe, maybe not. But for sure, the two of them need to be seen together. So I went into the myth about Dragon, and I have decided that he is the Dragon of the East Blue. The dragon that exists already is 100% one of the animals that exist in Japanese culture. And so you have cardinal direction and color and animal. And one of them is the dragon for the East. That's what it is. Its symbol is a dragon. And it's a protector. Each one of them is a protector of a different region. So for sure, dragon is this dragon.
Yeah, and you're talking about the four sacred beasts. You think dragon represents the beast of the East?
Yeah, but it's actually called something, and I'm trying to find out because I can't see where I wrote down what his dragon is.
I think it's the Azure dragon.
Thank you. That's the word. So he is the Azure Dragon. I started to look up the myths and legends around it. In Japan, they do a ton of different pictures where they show one dragon flying up and one dragon flying down. And the two dragons together create balance, the yin and the yang. And so if one dragon is flying up, that dragon is responsible for finding out about self-actualization and finding enlightenment. And that would be Luffy. And the dragon that is flying down is all about, once enlightenment is found, spreading enlightenment to all of humankind. And the dragon of the East Blue, the Azure Dragon, who I am 100% convinced that that dragon is, his whole thing would be spreading information to others, which would be perfect, because there's a line here where he says to Smoker, he goes, "What? Who? The government is after your head." And Dragon says, or as I'm going to call him, as your dragon, "The world is waiting for our answer." I think the world is waiting for enlightenment. I think that he and Luffy together create a yin-yang balance, finding the enlightenment, spreading the enlightenment. But then the other thing is that Luffy can be other things at the same time. And that's why there is no for sure. And I think Oda might have been brilliant and layered different symbols and metaphors and legends all together. So there's a layering. So one thing isn't necessarily true. Many things can be true. And I think that would make it more interesting. You have these four different animals that do the four quadrants. But what I actually think is going on with Luffy is that he is going to become the fifth animal that you have already, and we haven't met them, and I think we will. You have this bird who's red, you have the tiger who's white, and you have the turtle with the snake wrapped around it, which is black. And then there's a fifth one, which I think is going to be Luffy. And it's called, is it Kirin? It's something, I haven't said her.
Kirin, I think you said?
It's Kirin, and I think it's Kirin. There would be a center one, and its color would be yellow. Its direction would be center.
Yellow like a straw hat, perhaps.
Very much like a straw hat. But it also gets the power of all the other colors. And each one of these directionalities not only has an animal, they also have emotions that are attached to it. If Luffy turns out to be the fifth one in there, then he would get to use all their colors of power as well as the center, which is yellow. So I thought that would be really, really interesting for him. Also, the thing about the Karin, is that it is a link between moving freely. Each one of these has a season, And then, as she explained, you believe there's only 4 seasons, but there's actually transitional seasons that Japanese people are very aware of that happen in between each of the thing. And that would be the realm of seasons that Luffy would guard. And it helps to transition one season or the movement of time from place to place. So Luffy would become a person that's helping to smooth out the movement of time, which would then be mean that Luffy would be the one could possibly be helping to improve the ability to move throughout the Grand Line and to move between time links. That's just a weird thing that I went off in one other direction. And then I asked myself, would that reconnect the Grand Line in any way? And would it allow people to meet their destinies better, which the Karen does? The Karen, I'm going to say it so wrong. I'm going to listen to that woman say it like 8 times.
We are going to say Japanese shit wrong.
The thing that I thought was very interesting in there is one of the things that the Karen does, one of its key tenets is never interfering with other people's destinies. And I thought, shut up. That's incredible. And it looks still kind of like a dragon, but it's a mixture of many things. And one of the things that it ends up kind of looking like a little, but not a lot, is a giraffe. In the Japanese tradition, it's way less giraffe-like because it's a combination of all these different animals, but it still kind of looks like a giraffe. And that's why I decided as the thing that I wanted to use as kind of my avatar is a giraffe.
So I'm going to draw you an adorable kitten-inspired giraffe.
100%. And then the other thing that I thought was really interesting about this idea, and I'm going to go back up to here. Woo! Oh my God. I have so many pages of Crazy Town. I do need a cork board because I'm flipping through notes and it's so archaic. I think your dad would love it if I just turn this entire wall into one giant cork side to side, don't you?
I like you picking a giraffe as your Sona. Giraffes are awesome.
So then there's a whole other theory that you can attach to it in the Cork-Board of Madness. So you could have it that Luffy is the Karen, but you can also have that the Ryujin is a larger dragon, like an ultimate dragon or a god dragon. And it has God of the Sea, God of Water, and it's made up of 9 separate animals, including it has super cute ears of a cow, whatever. That is just a thing. It's made up of 9 separate animals. And then I started to wonder, how many crew members is Luffy going to have? And I think you could either have it's made up of 9 crew members who each give a part of their power to Luffy, and then Luffy is the Ryujin. Or you could have that Luffy is one of the 9 animals, and they all together create the ultimate power, which will be able to find the One Piece. And then Usopp is a human on the outside being like, good job, guys. I just love that for Usopp. Go Usopp. But it doesn't necessarily have to be that.
There's one last piece of Corkboard Corner that I want to go into before we move on to our regular ending segment. Well, you were talking about Shanks made you think about there being another power other than devil fruits.
Oh, yeah. There's a whole bunch of people I realized, or gods, or maybe Luffy's a god and I'm out to lunch and Luffy is just a god and isn't a combination of things or whatever. But because I realized that Shanks used power but was swimming and doing all these things, and there was no way in hell you can do that if you've eaten a devil fruit, I realized that there has to be power that's separate. And I said earlier, I think that Luffy already has that power. It hasn't been ignited yet, but I believe that Luffy is growing and changing, being in the Grand Line and having gone through this journey, and everything that he does is going to continue to strengthen him. And so I believe we're going to have a moment when his power is, for lack of a better word, ignited. And we're going to find out that he already would have had power, inherited strength. I'm 1,000,000% certain that he already had a power.
All righty. I think that's all we have for Corkboard Corner. For now, first of all, remember we got to plug that mythology channel. Did you find it?
It's Sana, S-A-N-A, Sakura, S-A-K-U-R-A. And she has she has a great show called Zen Up Your Life.
Alrighty. Our regular segments. First of all, predictions. We already have 2 that you made earlier, which is the crew will go to Elbaf, and gods are extant entities in this world. They are physical entities. Do we have anything else to add in our prediction corner?
Oh, I mean, let's look at. I think Luffy is Corinne.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's put that there. I think Luffy and I think that dragon is the Azure dragon.
Okay.
I don't know what the D for Luffy stands for, so the pedal goes up. I'm going to say dragon for now.
We're committing to dragon.
I'm going to call him Monkey Dragon Luffy. I believe that each one of Luffy's crew members, I think he's going to get 9. I for sure think the next one is definitely 100 trillion% going to be a doctor. After the shit they've gone through, it's time to get a doctor. I mean, come the hell on. I think each one of them, we're going to find out that each one of them is necessary, that they have to be there. That it's important. I still think Luffy's going to be a god. Like, I don't care. I'm gonna just go right on a limb here. Luffy's a god.
Luffy is a god. We are predicting Luffy is a god right now. All right, that is, this pedal goes up, stuck on our prediction board. Luffy's a god.
When you say it out loud, I'm like, whoa, that's a jump. No, Luffy's a god. I'm staying with it.
That's the channel mentality. This pedal goes up.
I think we're going to find out that each one of Luffy's crew members is also special. I don't know if God, but I looked up when I'm in the mythology now and they start talking about how many gods there are. I'm like, I mean, you might as well chuck a few more in. But I also want to predict that Usopp will never be anything other than a human.
Okay.
And that's because of chat boards. It's because of people talking.
Let's move into our popularity pool. You've been wanting to do it by arc particular instead of needing to have a running popularity pool. What's our current vibe? What's our current popularity pool looking like? Our top 5.
In this round, I'm going to go, okay, gut instinct. Number 1, we've got Sanji.
Fuck yeah, Sanji. This is top performance from Sanji this week. Congratulations, Sanji.
He just absolutely killed it, even though he gently hurt and gave owies to my 2 special friends.
Gently gave owies to your special friends, yeah.
Nonetheless, it was baller move. Absolute
out there. Call it a baller move. We're running with the same vocab.
Talking a crocodile face and doing all the stuff he did was absolutely awesome. So, number 1, straight to the top of the chart, is Sanji. Number 2 is my main man Zoro, who is absolutely killing it, trying to hack off his own legs. Although
this is a rare arc where Zoro's biggest contribution is a comedy scene.
Yeah, and that's why. Like, it's mostly because when he's like, I bet you. My very favorite comedy moment is like when they're like, we can't move and we're having trouble breathing. He's like, I bet you regret not making a pose now.
It's so good.
I'm going to say number 3 is the 2 giants together.
Dorry and Brogy get to share a spot.
Yeah, I'm not separating them. They've been fighting for 100 years.
They don't even get separate bounties.
They can sit there and hold each other's hands. Number 4 is Usopp.
Wow, Usopp maintaining his top 5 placing.
He really killed it this arc. And I think we spent a lot of time on Usopp, finding out some things about who he is and what's important. Number 5, and you're not going to like it, and that is what it is Ducky.
Karu gets in the top 5 of the week. Remember, these are not the all-time popularity pools. I think we'll do those on the saga breaks, but I think it's fair to give, like, the weekly showings.
I'd like to put out that Karu did a lot of stuff this week. Karu is partly responsible for everybody being successful, and that's a high 5 to Karu, and also maintained adorability at the same time. And that's a hard thing to do.
Karu got a ton of assists this week.
And then I just want to have a moment for my two little baddies who are having a really long nap.
A moment of silence for this long nap. Let's end it off with our top 5, or top however many you want to list, devil fruits. We've introduced only one more new one, unfortunately, which is the wax fruit.
Ugh.
Wax isn't making it? Is Miss Elsonne's mystery fruit still on top?
Not even on the chart is wax, because it's disgusting.
Wax is nowhere.
Yeah. It's literally not anywhere near. I don't know why. It really grossed me out. You know what? No, number 1 is still Miss All Sunday and her mystery fruit. I just want to put down it ain't ghosts.
Okay, so we're changing. It's not ghosts.
Now I like to think of her as being a mushroom, where she has like all these tendrils that are going through the air that we can't. Oh, maybe it's electricity. I'm gonna make hers whatever the hell it is, and it's electricity this week.
Okay.
That's my favorite. And then it's Luffy's.
Miss Sunday's classic electricity fruit is your favorite.
I'm gonna put smoke up higher this time. I had a little think about it, and smoke is cooler than I thought.
Turning into smoke is kind of cool.
Yeah, I think you could get under doors. You could choke people out without even working.
How are you gonna punch smoke?
And then I think that the slip.
All right, slip. Immune to physical damage, basically. You get to be thin all the time and perfect skin.
No, slip's 5. 4 is the becoming different weights.
Oh, interesting. The kilo fruit.
I started to wonder if you could use like air thermals and stuff by getting so light that you're lifted.
Yeah. Is there anything else we need to cover before we sign off?
No, I think that's it. I feel bad that I took up so much time in my crazy cork corner.
I honestly had a blast. I love your corner, and chat was going crazy listening to you. They loved it too.
They like cork corner? Okay. Because I was like, at the end, I felt like I was just talking into a void on another page, looking at my list of things. And I was like, do. And then I came out afterwards, felt like I had just come out of a fever fugue and was like, oh my God.
I'm excited to see what you think as you learn more about the world and what happens to your predictions as you kind of get more context for them.
I am too. Yeah.
All right.
I'm excited to see what my crew goes through. I'm excited to see them all find powers because I believe they shall.
All right. As for everybody in chat, thanks for being here. Thanks everyone for being here.
Wait, don't do this. You didn't tell me what I'm reading.
Oh my God, you're right. We're going to be reading 25 chapters, 3 volumes. We're going all the way up to 154 this time. And then the week after, because it's bigger than the rest of the saga combined, we're going to need to take on the final arc of the saga in 2 parts instead of just 1 like I thought.
So what I'm hearing is don't read any further than 157.
What you're hearing is you're supposed to stop at 154.
That will most likely happen.
154.
It's going to be exciting. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. I sure love having these talks. It's becoming more and more fun.
I look forward to these so much. It's such a blast. I love having you all here. This has been so much fun. And until next time, it's been lovely talking to you.
They're just taking a little sea piece.
In the arms of an angel playing over a slow pan of their simply unconscious bodies.
Dude. That's too far. Just unconscious.